Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right in and demystify one of the most visually stunning, delightfully complex cocktails out there. If you've ever been handed a glass topped with this impossibly perfect cloud-like foam, right, and it's dotted with that elegant little design of bitters on top, well then you already know the absolute magic of the Pisco Sour. Today, we're not just reading off a recipe, we're actually breaking down the anatomy of this true masterpiece. We'll look at the exact science, the fascinating history, and those precise techniques that make it such a beloved South American classic. Our source material really hits the nail on the head here, describing it as a tangy, frothy South American classic that perfectly balances floral notes with zesty lime and a signature silky foam. Honestly, that captures the exact sensory experience we're chasing. It's refreshing, it's visually striking, and it is a total favorite for anyone with an adventurous palate. It's not just a drink, it's a whole experience, built on this luscious texture and these bright, zesty flavors that literally dance on your tongue.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll meet the Pisco Sour. Then, we'll look at its contested cocktail history. Third, the anatomy of the ingredients. Fourth, the perfect mixing technique. And finally, we'll wrap up with some pro tips and FAQs.
Section 1. Meet the Pisco Sour and decode the spirit. Because before we build the drink, we really need to understand its foundation.
So, what exactly is Pisco? Well, it's a super unique, incredibly smooth, floral grape-based brandy. Unlike whiskeys made from grain or rums made from sugarcane, Pisco is distilled entirely from fermented grape juice, and it's native to both Peru and Chile. What's absolutely fascinating here is that it's often distilled to proof. That means zero water is added to dilute it after distillation. It's this concentrated grape base that gives the cocktail its completely unique, aromatic and floral flavor profile. Honestly, if you try to make this drink with anything else, it just isn't a Pisco Sour.
Moving right along to Section 2. A contested cocktail history, origins of an icon. This drink isn't just famous for its taste, it has a seriously fascinating backstory.
The story actually kicks off in the early 20th century with an American bartender named Victor Vaughan Morris. He was working at his bar in Lima, Peru, and taking some inspiration from the classic whiskey sour, Morris decided to just swap out the whiskey for the local grape-based brandy, Pisco. By the mid-20th century, this brilliant little creation had totally exploded in popularity. It became a massive icon of Peruvian culture, featured at almost every celebration and national holiday. Fast forward to today, and its famous spread worldwide as the ultimate symbol of South American hospitality. But here's the crazy part. As we just talked about, Pisco is native to both Peru and Chile. Because of that, both nations proudly and fiercely claim the Pisco Sour as their own. Now, we're not here to settle that debate today, but it's pretty amazing how a simple ingredient swap in Lima created this globally beloved and highly debated icon.
Let's get into Section 3. Anatomy of the ingredients, building the balance, because creating a masterpiece requires exactness.
To really pull this off, you need the exact recipe ratios. You're going to need 60 milliliters or 2 ounces of Pisco. For that authentic, smooth, floral flavor, you might look for a Peruvian Pisco, like a Quebranta or Acholado, but a Chilean Pisco works beautifully too. Try different brands and see what you prefer. Next up, 30 milliliters of freshly squeezed lime juice, and I mean fresh. That is absolutely non-negotiable here. Then, 25 milliliters of simple syrup, which is just a basic 1-to-1 mix of sugar and water. And finally, 30 milliliters of egg white, which is roughly the yield of 1 large egg. It's the precise intersection of these 4 elements that builds a perfect harmony of tart, sweet, and aromatic notes.
Of course, great ingredients demand the right tools. To execute this flawlessly, you'll want a cocktail shaker, a jigger for those exact measurements, a citrus juicer for the fresh lime, a bar spoon, and, crucially, a fine mesh strainer to catch any tiny ice shards and ensure a perfectly silky texture. But hey, if you don't have a cocktail shaker at home, do not panic. You can absolutely improvise with a tightly sealed jar or a tumbler. It works just fine.
Section 4. The perfect mixing technique, mastering the foam. Having the right ingredients is one thing, but putting them together correctly is the whole shebang.
Okay, here are your 5 steps to absolute perfection. Step 1. Combine your Pisco, lime juice, simple syrup, and egg white right in your shaker. Step 2, and this is the absolute secret, do a vigorous, dry shake for about 10 seconds. Step 3, crack it open, add your ice, and shake violently again for another 10 to 15 seconds. Step 4, double strain the cocktail into a chilled coupe or an old-fashioned glass to get that incredible texture. And Step 5, the finishing touch, garnish with bitters.
Now you might be wondering, why the 2-part shake? Why do we dry shake without ice first? Well, it's just simple science.
Shaking without ice violently whips the egg white proteins, emulsifying them to build this thick, highly stable foam. If you just throw the ice in right away, the liquid gets way too cold, way too fast, and that beautiful foam simply will not build. Once you've got that frothy base from the dry shake, then you hit it with the wet shake. Adding ice afterward chills the drink down and dilutes it to absolute perfection, bringing all those bold flavors into total harmony.
And then there's the garnish. We're talking 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. Because you nailed that dry shake, the foam is so dense and stable that it literally holds the liquid bitters right on top. You can even take a toothpick or your bar spoon and swirl those drops into a cool decorative pattern. But this isn't just about making the drink look pretty, right? Those bitters provide a vital, spicy, aromatic contrast to the sweet and tart flavors waiting in the liquid underneath. The scent hits your nose right before you take a sip, and it totally elevates the whole experience.
Finally, Section 5, Pro Tips and FAQs, elevating your serve. Let's make sure you have the complete confidence to pull this off at home.
So here is the #1 question people ask when they see a recipe calling for raw egg. Is it safe to use raw egg white in a Pisco Sour? It's a totally fair hesitation, especially if you're mixing this up for friends or family. The short answer is yes. Using fresh, high-quality eggs greatly minimizes any risk. But if you're still a bit wary, or maybe you're serving someone who is vegan, you've got some fantastic alternatives. You can easily use pasteurized egg whites straight from the carton. Or for a completely vegan foam, you can substitute the egg white with aquafaba. That's just a fancy culinary term for chickpea brine. Yep, bean water. But trust me on this, it whips up beautifully and creates a surprisingly similar, super stable foam without changing that crisp flavor profile at all.
Also, for the mindful drinkers out there tracking nutrition, a standard serving of this masterpiece sits at roughly 180 calories. It's got about 14 grams of carbs coming from the simple syrup and the fresh lime, a nice little protein punch from that egg white, and honestly, only trace amounts of fat.
So, we've decoded the grape-based spirit, we've explored its fiercely contested history, and we've mastered that crucial dry shake technique for the perfect frothy crown. You now have all the tools to create this vibrant, perfectly balanced drink right in your own kitchen. But as you sip that silky foam and take in the aroma of those bitters, just remember that you are participating in a rich cultural legacy. Both Peru and Chile proudly claim this masterpiece as a profound symbol of their national hospitality. So, the only question left for you is, which country's claim will you toast to tonight?